In this video, we're going to show you one of the most incredible places in Florence and at the same time, one of its least visited museums. We'll take you inside and show you many of its most fascinating treasures. And before the end of the video, you'll see the original armor and funeral equipment of one of the most famous warriors of the Italian Renaissance. If you're interested in discovering the real Italy, give this video a like, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. I honestly don't think I've ever had this much fun in a museum. Don't get me wrong, there are many incredible museums. Right here in Florence, we've already made videos about the Uffizi and several others, but this one feels different. The first word that comes to my mind is fun. It might sound strange. After all, we're talking about a museum filled with the Renaissance armor and weapons, not exactly the lightest subject. And yet, the way everything is displayed, the life-size reconstructions, and the richness of the collection create an experience that's truly surprising. Instead of simply looking at objects inside glass cases, you almost feel like you've stepped into a movie. That's why I say it's fun. We are in Florence. We are in the historical center and this is the Arno River. And now I want to take you in a special place near here. Let's go. Just a few minutes from Florence Historic Center, the museum is still right in the city, but it's surrounded by a beautiful park and located inside a historic villa. Well, welcome to Italy. Here, museums are often inside other historic buildings that could almost be museums themselves. I talked about this in our video on the Uffizi, which you'll find linked in the description below. Getting here is easy. The neighborhood is quiet, traffic is light, and the park feels like a peaceful escape in the middle of the city. As soon as I walk inside, I already know I'm going to enjoy this visit. There are very few people here. As usual, I'm filming during the low season, but even then, this is still a museum that most visitors never discover, especially compared to the Florence famous attractions. And once again, it makes me think about mass tourism. How much do we lose when we accept the idea that every city deserves only a few rushed hours before moving on to the next destination? The kind of tourism where every afternoon is just another checklist. Personally, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes someone can make when visiting Italy. But we've already talked about that in several other videos. So let's get back to the museum. The collection began as the private passion of a wealthy English collector who dedicated much of his life to collecting historical armor and weapons. And honestly, I can't even imagine how much time, effort, and money went into building a collection like this. It's not just Italian artifacts. There are pieces from all over the world, including an extraordinary collection of original Japanese armor and weapons. Every room is filled with original armor, swords, helmets, shields, firearms, and military equipment. But what makes this museum special isn't only the objects themselves, it's how they're presented. The armor isn't simply displayed, it's brought back to life. The mannequins, the poses, the settings, they help you imagine what these warriors actually looked like 500 years ago. And I have to admit, standing face to face with one of these fully armored soldiers is an impressive experience. They look almost invincible, covered in steel from head to toe, untouchable. You immediately realize that wearing armor like this completely transformed a man. It changed how he looked, how he moved, how people saw him. You can almost feel the power these soldiers must have projected simply by appearing on the battlefield. And then you arrive at what is probably my favorite room in the entire museum, the Hall of Horsemen. A long line of fully armored knights sitting on horseback, almost as if an entire cavalry unit were marching right in front of you. You can't help but imagine the sound, the horses' hooves striking the ground, the metal armor clanking together, the slow, steady advance of these soldiers. Imagine being an ordinary farmer 500 years ago and seeing something like this approaching your village. It must have been an unforgettable and probably terrifying sight. The museum also has an impressive collection of early firearms. Some of them were clearly made for battle, others are true works of art. Their decorations are so detailed that it's almost impossible to appreciate them without getting very close. The craftsmanship is simply extraordinary. As you continue through the museum, you realize that every room has something worth stopping for. But if there's one object that stands above all the others, it's this, the funeral armor of Giovanni dalle Bande Nere, one of the greatest military leaders of the Italian Renaissance, a legendary figure who died very young yet became famous throughout Italy in an incredibly short time. During the early 16th century, Italy wasn't a unified country. It was divided into many independent states and wars were frequent. Professional soldiers, known as condottieri, played a central role in those conflicts, and Giovanni dalle Bande Nere became one of the most respected and feared among them. Over the centuries, his story has become a mixture of history and legend. Standing in front of the armor that accompanied him after his death is a powerful experience. It reminds you that behind every suit of armor was a real person, someone who lived, fought, succeeded, and eventually died. Now we are back outside walking through the park. Our visit is over. As I said at the beginning, this museum feels different. The size of the collection and the way everything is presented allow you to completely immerse yourself in another period of history. It's absolutely worth visiting. Of course, coming to a place like this requires something that modern tourists often forget: time. We've become used to rushing, even on vacation. We're constantly searching for rankings, the 3 places you can't miss, the 5 hidden gems, the perfect one-day itinerary, and somehow those lists always end up looking exactly the same. That's one of the reasons why places like the Stibbert Museum rarely make it into most travel itineraries. And honestly, I think that's a shame, not only because this museum deserves far more attention, but because experiences like this remind us what travel can really be. Instead of rushing from one famous landmark to another, you have the chance to slow down, to discover something unexpected, to spend time in a place where you can actually think, observe, and enjoy what you're seeing, without crowds, without pressure, just you and history. If this is the kind of Italy you'd like to discover, then you are in the right place. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments if you have ever visited the Stibbert Museum or if you'd like to add it to your next trip to Italy. We'll see you in the next video.